Okay. So I used to work at a nursing home where I tried to learn the languages of all the people who worked there. And it was interesting too, like a number of the nurses spoke Tagalog, and at one point one of the nurses, like, does anybody here speak Tagalog? Oh, wow, you speak Tagalog. Okay, one of the nurses at one point said, he's Kiki, referring to me. I was like really confused for a second. I was thinking, like, what does Kiki mean? I would ask the nurses that, all the nurses laughed. That made me wonder even more, like, what Kiki meant. So, like, I Google it, and then Google just says it means vagina, which I was even more confused up by. I was like, I don't see how it was resembling a vagina to that word. And then, like, I, like, tried to do the math in my head, and I was thinking, like, oh, well, that nurse who called me a vagina always laughs at my jokes, so, like, maybe she was saying that I'm warm and entertaining. And then, like, I do have a disability, but it's not being a vagina. That would be interesting to be a vagina. I guess then I'd have more knowledge of the concept of, like, how it's hard to find wheelchair-accessible bathrooms. It would be challenging to get places without a wheelchair if I was a vagina, because to my knowledge, vaginas don't have arms and legs. They're just, but, like, yeah. So, like, another thing, too, like, a different topic. A friend of mine lives in Victoria, Canada. She works at the Bug Zoo in Victoria, Canada. You should visit if you get the chance and you're not afraid of bugs. But anyway, she was visiting me in Seattle, and, like, I felt worried for her because the thing about it is, like, she's a really pale woman with red hair, and, like, I sometimes worry in this time of the year in the summer when I hang out with, like, pale white people. I think, like, oh no, like, I'm gonna feel really bad if, like, we hang out and we're just having a good time and the person just goes up in a puff of smoke or whatever, like, it's the sun or whatever, because it's like, I'm gonna think, like, oh, this, like, poor little white person was, like, hanging out with me, and, like, we're just having the best time, and, like, their whole family's gonna be mad at me, and, like, everybody, I'm gonna be on the news and be like, oh, this guy, he was so privileged with all the melanin that he had, like, all this melanin stuff, they're just having fun in the sunlight, and this white person they hang out with, he didn't even, like, think to try to get the person under some shade or some cover, the person just, like, turned into a lobster and died. Like, I would just feel so guilty if that happened. So, like, I always, like, feel kind of paranoid if I hang out with white people in the summer. Like, I'm glad, like, so far I always have remembered, the last time I forgot was, like, when I was working with kids at a summer camp, like, a few years ago, and, like, one of the kids, like, they didn't die, but they just got sunburned. I felt bad. I was like, oh no, like, this kid, like, I should have done something. Like, sure, there were plenty of white adults around that also could have done something, but I still felt bad, because, like, it's one of those things, it's like somebody else isn't at risk of something, then something happens, I was like, oh no, I could have used my privilege or whatever, I don't know. And then, like, what else is there? Is, like, one of my coworkers at my job is, like, I'm on the autism spectrum. I have a coworker who's also on the autism spectrum, and, like, one thing I like is, like, this isn't true with all people on the autism spectrum, but some people on the autism spectrum are very open with things that most people wouldn't say out loud. And so, like, one thing my coworker said is she said, oh yeah, I eat my hair all the time. And I was, like, really surprised that she divulged this. I didn't remember what the context was, and then I was also thinking, like, oh wow, like, she eats her hair last night. Like, I told her this, like, me also being open. I was like, oh, I'm really happy for you that even though you eat your hair all the time, you've had several relationships that are long-lasting. And, like, she laughed for, like, 2 or 3 minutes after that. And, like, I think she was still trying not to laugh after those 3 minutes were over. Like, it's really cool. Like, it's a really great experience to be in a workplace or whatever where you can say something like that, and the person doesn't think you're a monster or whatever. Because there's so many ways you could say something honestly, and then people think you're the villain after you say it. And I should have thought of a good example of that, but I don't actually have a good example of that at this point, but I should think of one in the future. Another thing that happened, so, like, have any of you heard of a sport called wife carrying? So there's a sport called wife carrying. It's the national sport of Finland. You might know about that sport if you have, like, a special interest in geography or whatever, but, like, so, yeah, it's the national sport of Finland. I competed in that recently in British Columbia in Canada, and I have a friend named Kelsey who's also a comedian. He came all the way from Portland to help me win. She weighs, like, 90 pounds or so, which I'm really grateful for her. I like that. So anyway, like, in the sport of wife carrying, as the name suggests, you carry a person on your back. They're like, not as the name suggests, you don't have to be married to them, and you they don't have to be a woman too, they can be any gender. Like, I'd be down to carry Peter Dinklage on my back. Like, any human I'd be down to carry, like, as long as they don't weigh enough to crush me or whatever. I'm not large. I only weigh, most of my adult life I weigh 135, now I weigh 147, but I'm still not large. So anyway, like, I carried her, I got third place out of 23 teams, and like, I was thinking, like, I really wish that this is a different name for the competition, because like, it's called wife carrying, which was called like person carrying or whatever. It was like, makes it harder to find people to help you compete, but also I was thinking too, like, this is a fully platonic sport, and I wish that more people realize that it's a fully platonic sport. It's like, to me, like, nothing seems non-platonic about carrying somebody in your back, but like, at the same time, I feel like more people should know about more sports around the world. Like, there's some sports that I don't consider platonic. Like, one sport, like, are any of you familiar with sports that are popular in Turkey? Okay, none of it. Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Like, I think I'm usually going to be the only person in the geography in the room. But anyway, one of the sports in Turkey that's traditional is Turkish oil wrestling. It's a major sport there, and like, they never made, as the name suggests, Turkish oil wrestling involves wrestling in oil, and the only thing you're allowed to wear is leather pants. And then not only the only thing you're allowed to wear is leather pants, but the way you're supposed to hold on to the person is the only way to get a grip is if you Google this, like, you can Google it now if you want. I know at least one of you is on your phone right now, or if you want to, you can Google it later. If you Google Turkish oil wrestling, you'll see pictures of men wrestling with each other, while each man will have their hand in the other guy's pants as they're doing it. This is a country that has a long history of homophobia, by the way. And then, like, they didn't make time limits for this sport until the 1970s. So it used to be that sometimes they'd wrestle for like a day or two, until one person gave up, and that could last a day or two. But in the 1970s, they're like, oh, let's limit it to 40 minutes of wrestling in oil while having your hands in the leather pants of another man or whatever. I feel like that's a sport. I want somebody to put a ring on my finger before I can be like, I'm not religious or anything. I just think Turkish oil wrestling seems more intimate than having sex with somebody. Because like, having sex with somebody is one thing, but then like, getting covered in oil and wearing leather pants, having to have each other's hands in each other's pants for like, and like being in front of a crowd or whatever, like all of this, I feel like it seems like more of a special event than just having sex with somebody. So for that reason, I feel like wife carrying seems completely platonic, but Turkish oil wrestling, I feel like we need more standards for that. And then like, what else was it? Like, oh my god, like, let's think. So like, so in Montreal, I got my first relationship in 2024, and that was an interesting experience. Like, one red flag, well, that's the thing, I was like, it's a great thing about having a number of friends that they can like, every time I notice a red flag, I can like write it down, but also message to them, so I can have like a written track record of like red flags to like look back on later. But like, beyond the red flag, there's some things that I feel like are not really a red or a green flag. There's like, oh, I didn't mention the red flag. The red flag was like, they wanted to be in a relationship with me after we had only known each other for like a week and a half or so. So like, multiple people I know told me that was a red flag. I was like, oh cool, that's good information now. The first relationship, get to know this red flag. But anyway, like, at one point we're at this concert, this underground venue in Montreal. Like, there's a tradition of people having sex in this one bathroom there. And like, the thing about it is like, it is wheelchair accessible, but it wasn't the only wheelchair accessible bathroom. So it is bad to have sex in a wheelchair accessible bathroom if you're preventing people in wheelchairs from having, well, not preventing them from having sex there, but preventing them from using the bathroom there. Because ideally they would be going there to use the bathroom. So like, I guess somebody in a wheelchair would be more apt to like use it for sex than somebody that's not in a wheelchair. But anyway, two wheelchair accessibles, I don't feel guilty. And like, it's a tradition after all. And like, we're in there for a while, and then like, after a while, like, a bunch of people start banging on the door, and like, I was thinking for a second that maybe like I was doing this tradition wrong, or I was like, what am I doing wrong with this tradition or whatever? But then like multiple, not just one person, but like several people were saying, it's supposed to be a quickie! It's supposed to be a quickie! And like, this is like, at this concert, like, we had started when the last band started on stage, and then like the last band was still like finished their last song at this point. That was when all the knocking started. And like, I was thinking like, it is good for accessibility that, like, the main language of Montreal is French. It's great that they're yelling at me in English. On the other hand, I wish they had, like, a sign on the door for, like, people at the autism section to be like, quickies only or whatever. That would have been, like, a really great thing to have, just to, like, make it more, because, like, without, like, anybody telling me, I had no idea. I just assumed sex was meant, like, go as long as you want or whatever. I thought you just, like, stand there forever. The rest, it was only for... That's, like, one of the other wild things about, like, people just knowing what you're doing there or whatever. But anyway, like, other materials. Like, at one point, like, I lived on top of a bar in Montreal, and there was this woman who was a friend of mine who had never met her before. Like, this is, like, a wild thing about how different cultures are different. Is, like, she, like, grabbed my hand and asked me to dance. I'd never met her before. We danced for a while. And then after we had been dancing a while, she said, like, "Are you an autiste?" And then, like, do any of you know French? Yeah, I see. Okay, one person, like, was smiling, so I feel like at least two people, like, maybe know. It's like, do any of you know what autiste means in French? It's like, if you don't, if you're too shy to say it, I understand. But anyway, like, so I said, "Oh yeah, I am an autiste. Like, I do poetry and stand-up comedy." And then, like, she was really good. Oh, well, I'm not a Nazi. Like, it says up there the Nazi. Autiste and Nazi do not sound similar to each other. Okay, like, maybe Google is why we're turning to fascism. I don't know. But anyway, like, yeah. So, like, I said that I was, I'm a autiste. I do poetry. So she was surprised because of what I said, not make, so that she didn't think I was an Nazi. But anyway, like, I realized based on her surprised face that she was surprised because it turns out autiste is different than artiste. Artiste means artist in French. Autiste means autistic. So she had just danced with me for a while, gotten tired, and asked me if I was autistic or not. And I mentioned that, yeah, I am on the autism spectrum. She's like, "Oh, it's so obvious that you're autistic." Like, I wasn't wearing this jacket, I was wearing more normal clothes then. But yeah, but then, like, she said that she was also on the autism spectrum. Like, that was a cool thing in Montreal. I met a lot of cool French-speaking people who are on the autism spectrum and stuff. And, like, yeah, I only got in a relationship with one of them, but, like, it was still cool to, like, meet a number of French-speaking autistic people. And I believe I got the lights. I believe if my X-ray vision is correct, Dan Hurwitz should be right here to accept. Yeah, he is right here. Okay. So, like, I believe Dan Hurwitz and Allegra Keys Dan Hurwitz hosting, and then Allegra Keys performing are probably next. So that's Dan Hurwitz's job to announce the next comedian. But, like, thank you so much for hearing me perform and coming to Speak Fest and everything. Yeah, give it up for Dan Hurwitz. Oh, wait, should I hand the mic to you? Okay, yeah, okay.
Hey, keep going from my phone, everyone. Repeat after me. Disabled people should have sex in disabled bathrooms.
Disabled people should have sex in disabled bathrooms.
Yes. Yes. How are we doing?
Woo!
Doing good? I think we're going to keep this moving right along. You're next to me.